go well. Here we are. Okay. So let me get the YouTube going again because it was giving me a bunch of feedback in the background. And I can let it be live while we are having our session. That way, they can get a chance to participate. Glad you all are here. Welcome. It's good to see some familiar faces. It's good to see some new faces. Place your name and where you're from in the chat box so that we can get the chance to say hi. And I'm so glad that you all have your cameras on because this is one of the phenomenal ways that we can enjoy and be present because 55% of what we learn comes from body language. And so having you present with this now, Sharon, where are you from? Texas, Florida, welcome. Go ahead, we got two. Dallas and Antonio, good to see you all here. Well, I am located in Washington, D.C., just outside, native of Washington, D.C., still not too far from home, but this is where we get the chance to enjoy. So I'm going to walk in. There's several people that are going to be joining us along the way, but I want to honor your time and do a quick tutorial that usually gives people opportunity to come in. And some people have not always had the opportunity to use Zoom. So I'm going to share my screen and I'll be going in and out. So while I'm sharing my screen, then you'll get the chance to, whoops, where did my presentation go? Let's try this again. Let's open this back up. And for those of you that are already familiar with Zoom, just bear with me while we go through this portion, because I have learned along the way that not everybody is familiar with the platform. And so sharing this information gives them support. And I want to make certain that we give a great support system. Welcome, Brenda, how are you? So while I'm sharing this part, so you are mindful when we begin, this will be a little bit different because people have different versions of Zoom and some may be joining on their phone. So if you're joining from your phone, you'll have a different view than what others will have. And so on this session, just to give you some quick insight, at the top of your screen, you may see, if you're on a desktop, a little button that you can expand because you get the chance to control where you can see it. You can have it as a small screen or a large screen. If you're on your phone, you will not see this feature and you don't need to. The other part for individuals is where the mute button is. This is important for a lot of people, knowing where the mute button is. And it looks the same on the computer and on the phone. Just on the computer, you have this bar that's close to the bottom. Then there's the video. I would love for us while we're engaging, because there are portions in this session that I'm going to go in and out of the presentation. When I'm out of the presentation, I want to see cameras on so I can see your beautiful faces so that we can fully engage. If you're on your phone, you can scroll down to the bottom of your screen and it will give you the same icon where you can turn your video on and off. And then there's the chat box. In the chat box, leave your name and where you're from so that we can get the opportunity to see where everybody is and we can collaborate outside, because I found in some of my sessions, people that find that they're close to one another engage a little bit later on outside of the platform. And on your phone, you can see that at the bottom. Then there's an opportunity to raise your hand. You can raise and lower your hand. For some of the older versions of Zoom, it's located at the bottom. For some of the newer versions, you have a longer toolbox that you have a special feature. Those reactions is where you can raise your hands from there. You can raise your hands and ask questions throughout the session, but I will have moments where I will be pausing along the way, and we will have plenty of time at the end of this information to get your questions answered. Next, we have where the chat box is. In the chat box, it's already preset so that you can see everyone, but you can toggle down on that screen to select a specific individual if you want to send a private message. That way, you get the chance to see what's happening, have a conversation, and I'm hoping that you all know where that is, and this quick tutorial was real helpful. In the meantime, Let me introduce myself for those of you that are just getting a chance to meet me. I am Tanya E. Hood, a wife, a mother, and an entrepreneur. As an entrepreneur, it simply means that I've worn a lot of different hats in my life. And part of doing that has given me the opportunity to create strategies and actionable steps that I've used to help my clients make a strategic impact, both personally and professionally, to have better than what life has been giving them. On this session, I'm going to give you insight of what I learned in the aftermath of my divorce. And it comes from the life lessons from my premier book, Red Alert, Is He the One? The Pocket Guide to Finding the Love of Your Life. If you read my book, then you already know that I got married at 21. And after 11 years of marriage, I found myself going through a divorce, having to raise my 2 sons alone. To reset my life and survive my divorce, I took the time I needed to get to know me better, which opened me up to new love again. And now I'm remarried to the love of my life and my best friend, which proves there is life after divorce. Now, I'm fully aware that not everyone that joins my course is divorced, nor do you have to be. If you are just coming in and want to gain insight about your core strengths, gain some knowledge about how to eliminate conflict quickly, then you are in the right space. And we are going to have a phenomenal discussion. This is interactive. I want you to engage. Thank you all for being here. Let's see where everybody is from. We have Linda, we've said Florida, Texas, Dallas, Maryland, Central America. Hey, originally, go ahead. That is awesome, Linda. Nebraska, welcome, welcome. So this is the thing that I love about having a virtual environment. And for those of you that know that there's somebody that should be here today that have not had the chance to join, they still have time. I've placed inside the chat box the registration link so that they can get the opportunity to be on here. We're going to be in this session for a little over an hour. And then we're going to be able to walk into our next discussion and comments and questions tomorrow. This is a 2-day event, so grab pen and paper. There's a lot of information that you're going to want to take down because your notes are the best notes that you can take. So with that, can everybody hear and see me okay? Before I go into the presentation, hello. It is good to see all the beautiful faces. I'm so glad you guys are sharing your screen. This is awesome. This way we can communicate more effectively with each other. And let me check on YouTube because we are streaming live for them today as well. Okay, YouTube has it going on as well. Hello to you all that are there. So I'll be toggling a little bit back and forth with comments, but most of my attention will be here with you because that's why I asked you guys to join Zoom. This is where you get the chance to have more of an interactive discussion. This is the opportunity for you to help me personalize your conversation because as I share this information about your core strengths, I want you to see where you are. Let me answer it so that you have some specifics that you need to take out of this moment. With that, let me share my screen. All right. So we're going to walk through a couple of different things over the next 2 days, knowing your core strengths, knowing how to eliminate conflict so that you can break through to your next level. This information will build you a firmer foundation by knowing yourself in 3 different parts. I love the number 3, and you'll understand more why, because people tend to remember things in collectives of 3. So we're going to go completely through part 1 today so that you can know more of your core strengths. And then we're going to highlight those strengths, gain more insight when we get into part 2. I'm going to give you a snippet to introduce you because I want to take a deeper dive into part 2 to give you tools that you can use to eliminate conflict. So tomorrow when we come back, we'll round out the rest of that discussion and finalize with our breakthrough. Personal development is the key to unlocking your breakthrough. The more clarity you have of who you are will give you insights into your core strengths. Your motives and values that drive your behavior are seen in your core strengths. And the better you understand yourself and others, it will give you a window into the motives and values of individuals so that you know why people do what they do. Because relationships are a part of every area of our lives. Having relationships with friends, with family, loved ones, and even work. We are in relationship with all of it. And knowing your motives and values will give you the reasons why people are doing what they do so that you know which strengths to deploy so that you can have sustainable relationships. So this is going to give you some primary focus areas. There are 3 focus areas that I'm going to give you that will give you just a highlight and an overview of what your strengths are. This information gives you a focus on people, which is blue, performance as red, and green as process. And I'll be speaking more to the colors because once you have the colors locked into your mind, it will give you information about your motivation that reflects your values because your strengths show up in what you value and your behavior is revealed in what you want to show as a characteristic of who you are. So let's walk into the colors. And I know that you're going to have a lot of questions after that. So we will have a question and response interactive session after I go through all 3 color sequences. Identify a little bit where you are along the way so we can have a more interactive discussion. So for those that focus on performance, red is the color that represents you, red as leaders, red as individuals that are decisive, competitive. For those individuals that have this as their focus area, they are typically the go-getters. These are the individuals from a professional perspective, are the ones that are in leadership. They are the management team. They are the ones that typically have people to strive towards whatever the metric is. From a personal perspective, these are the ones that sort of take charge. If there's a situation that needs to have a leader to step in the gap, these are those individuals that step in the gap for you so that you can get the chance to have somebody give you some insight along the way. Then we have blue, which is a focus on people. These are those individuals that just seem to bring peace into the room when they arrive. They are your protectors. They're the ones that are real supportive. These elements that I'm sharing are strengths. So for this person, when you see them from a professional perspective, they are the ones that typically work in HR. They want to help people get on board to the job, know where various things are located. They are also the individuals that you will typically find in the office that will set up the office parties and just make certain that everybody around the office is okay. And now that a lot of us are doing these virtual environment meetings for our job, these are those individuals that just may send you a little text message, or, and if you're using Teams, a little chat box or an email just saying, hi, how are you? From a personal perspective, this is that person that used to be called Big Mama, the one that wants to make sure that everybody is feeling okay. This is the individual that has everyone go to them because they know that when they get to this person, they're going to have some support. They're going to have some guidance that they can receive because they'll be received in that supportive nature will give them some insight. Then we have green, which is a focus on performance, on process. With this individual, they are practical, analytical, logical. These individuals are those that organize. From a professional perspective, they typically work in the IT department. They have been often called nerds, and I don't take that as a derogatory term because I am green. So this is the individual that wants to make certain that we follow the process. These are the ones that build the procedure. From a personal perspective, this is that friend of yours that if you're going on a vacation and you want to know how far away it is to get to the airport, they are the ones that have calculated the distance from the airport to your house and have already created a small itinerary that everybody can enjoy when you arrive to your destination. Now, the information that I just shared with you can give you a probable solution for interactions that you may see. But just like any other assessment, it will never give you a complete view of who you are. This is only a glimpse into some insight about what you bring to the table. And I will show you how to maximize it, to use it to support you so that you can reach your next level. And with that, let's take a few moments to have a discussion, because in this world of disruption, strong relationships are not optional, they are critical. And knowing this information will help you gauge how to have more trusting relationships, be more resilient along the way, and we can engage so I can personalize this to you because you showed up here so that you can get this insight so that I can maximize your time today. So with that, please share. You can give the information in the chat box or unmute yourself, which would be so much better. And let me know what you identified with as one of those color sequences.
Hi, I can start. This is Tamaria. I apologize. I've been trying to get my camera to work. It is not working for me, so I do apologize. I think that I am a mixture of red and blue, just because I do take leadership. If I come into a place, I notice I'm always hired in places where they need to have things cleaned up and understanding processes. So I can kind of walk in the office. You give me about a week or two, and I can tell you who should be doing what and how it should be done. But at the same time, I really, really like to plan the parties and have everyone kind of talk to each other and maybe do little things. Well, before COVID, pre-COVID, do things after work, things like that. And people in the office come to me and always talk to me about what's going on. So I'm a mixture of the red and the blue, I think. Thank you.
And I'm glad that you shared that, because that is what is most of the case. There's a lot of people that pull one or two colors up. For me, I'm a green blue. So you are the individual that helped me get acclimated with what was happening along the way. And so there are some individuals that have the ability to blend all three almost equal. Those are called hubs. But we contain all three colors. We just don't highlight them in a lot of ways in specific areas. Some are clear. Like for me, being a green blue, I am a cautious, supportive individual. I want to make certain that you are okay along the way while I develop a plan to get you to your best possible position. And like you were sharing, Tamara, having that blend that you have, that's the beautiful thing about individuals that onboard in people that come in can see the situation. It is your red that gives you that glimpse to a broader scope of things, because you're looking at the metric. You're trying to see, how can we meet the goal? What's the next step that we could take so that people can get an idea? And then a person like me can come in and say, hey, I can show you these steps or build a process for your vision to meet that metric. That's what that part happens. Anyone else identify their colors and would like to share?
Hi, so I'm Kim, and so I kind of identify with Tamara and yourself. I think I am a mixture of red and blue as well. I'm retired from the military, and so I was very focused on performance and what people must do to meet those goals. And so now that I'm retired, I'm actually in school to become a social worker. So of course, being focused on people, wanting to help people and empower people, I have both of those colors, both of those traits.
Okay, that is good to know. And I'm glad that you all are recognizing this, because here's the part that I wanted to have. You understanding this part gives you insight, because those things that you've been doing, those are strengths. And no one may not have shared that with you or given you insight to what you naturally do as a strength. And having the colors can give you that perspective to give you a window into other individuals, so that when you walk into an environment, you can quickly assess, hey, this person is always making certain that everybody's okay, checking on other people, they have such a calming spirit. Then you have identified a person whose focus is on people, they're blue. You can also identify an individual that is red. They're usually wanting to be in a take charge position. They are often management. They want to lead. They want to make certain that you meet the goal. For those individuals, they sort of talk fast, they move fast, they want things to happen at sort of a faster pace, because in their mind, the quicker you get to the goal, then we can get to the next one, because a lot of times they're really competitive. You find mostly really deep red people in sports and sort of high corporate environments. And this will help you identify them. So if you are trying to figure out who your coworkers are, trying to get an idea of who you're in relationship with, these colors can be your tool to give you support. So I want to have this discussion a little bit more to ensure that you have it, because when we walk into the next portion of part 2, that's where I will show you how to take these colors, this insight that you're gaining, and learn how to quickly eliminate conflict. So, are there any other colors? Anyone else? Hey, Brenda from Nebraska, good to see. Glad that you are here. Anyone else see their colors? And I'm glad that, Brenda, you said mostly green. Would you like to share a little bit about that?
Well, I probably can't without crying, but only because, like I said, I don't really have a good viewpoint of myself right now. At least in doing genealogy, I can see that in me.
Okay.
Sorry.
And it's okay, Brenda. I want you to know that part of the reason I do this is because I was in a space where I didn't know me either. We have strengths that often we don't recognize. And if you do not have enough clarity of who you are, others that see it can take advantage of it. And I was in a position where my strengths were being utilized without me because I did not know that they were strengths. And so when you get more clarity of who you are, that empowers you to have your breakthrough. My goal is to get you to a place where you have some idea, because your strengths tie into your motives and values. So they're in there. So I thank you for being here. I thank you for being transparent. This is a safe space for you as well. And I appreciate you sharing. So let's walk through the green a little bit. So in green, being an individual is process oriented. You are an individual that more likely organizes and structures things. And you have probably been someone that people have come to help them organize. If you have a natural tendency to organize or straighten things up, or want to make certain that people get more balance in their life, have been an individual that wants to make certain things are fair. Greens are typically the ones that go out in the world, that are visionaries, that want to let justice prevail. And those hearts often don't get recognized as strengths because you're just naturally doing what you do. I think I saw a hand raised. Did someone raise their hand? I'm trying to read the chat box and have the conversation. Yes, Linda.
I was trying. I think I see myself in a little bit of each, because I can be that person that comes in, sees something that needs to get done, come take charge, do whatever. But I'm not that driven of this is so important. I always want to be a leader, this and that, the other. Then the blue side, I'm people oriented, and for the green, I see myself there as well, a little bit of each of them.
Exactly. Because we carry all three colors, but depending on the environment or the situation, you highlight. Oh, Brenda, Linda, you're breaking up. I half heard you. My apologies.
So it's like people, yeah.
Apologize. You were breaking up. I thought you stopped because it paused on my end and it looked like you were still talking. So my apologies if I talked over you, because it looks like you're freezing again. Is it just?
Yeah. Yes, I agree with you. You said depending on the situation.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let me
Better?
address that part a little.
Better?
And so with individuals that see themselves in a couple of the different colors, it's because you carry all three. But what I want to share with you is getting insight about the colors, because even if you're a red, you may not go to the total spectrum of red where you want to be the leader, dominate the situation, because you may have the other colors that balance it out for you to not want to walk in that direction. But knowing the insight about the colors can give you a glimpse into some elements about yourself and also let you know what they do because it's in you. You can pull up those other colors to enhance. So that is the part that I want to walk into next, because this will give you some greater information, having known a basic idea of your colors. How do we maximize the use of this as a tool? So let me share my screen and talk through the next section to let you know how to organize and structure this. All right. So in this part 2 is about eliminating conflict. In order for you to do that, you have to set boundaries and standards. They're a key component to being able to get to your next position. And you improve your relationships by knowing the information that we just shared, what your strengths are, because that knowledge will give you insight to be able to recast the past, master the moment, and co-create the future. So let me walk through more what that looks like. When I say recast the past, when we have more information on a situation, we can get a different viewpoint of it. Say, for instance, and I'll use the professional world as an example, because that's usually a space that's easier for people to negotiate with, because we have in that environment more relationships with individuals that we didn't really want to accept on our own, but you're in that environment, and so you have to collaborate. So if you're working with someone, let's say, I'll use this as a color tool, the green. When a green person goes into conflict, lots of times they're going deeper into analysis. So they're asking a lot of questions. And if you're hosting a meeting where someone keeps interrupting you because they keep asking various questions along the way, and you're just trying your best to finish the meeting and get through that situation, and they just keep interrupting, this is what you can do. Now that you have more information about their colors, a green person, when they're in conflict, is just looking for more data. They analyze. If you can give them more insight about the meeting beforehand, you can eliminate a lot of the questions, comments, or concerns that may arise when you're in it. That way, you can recast the past because you have more knowledge that you can utilize to support that person. So in the future, you won't keep walking down that particular path. Now, for the next one, master the moment. For this one, this is being present, being aware of your environment, being aware of your situation. And I shared with you your core strengths earlier, because if you're more aware of your core strengths and you have a glimpse into the window of others, then you can quickly see when you're in the moment what's happening. You can see that person who's more blue. You can see that person who's more green. You can see the person that's red. And when you start getting into this a little bit more, you can see more clearly the perspective of individuals, that is a blend, and you can support them. You can also use this information to co-create the future. For instance, when things are going well, and there are 2 conditions that I'll show you next that happens with your core strengths. But when things are going well, I'm usually blue-green. In my work environment, management team wants me to be more red because we have metrics we need to meet. Managers don't have a whole lot of time, so they want us to give them the information in a short time period. And those that are red really are looking for that information to happen quickly so that they can move on to provide and assess other things that they have to do in the job. What I did to help me move my red up a little higher, because I'm mostly green, I've got a smidgen of blue, I have enough blue to be supportive, but I don't have enough blue in me on the personal side to be the happy-go-lucky goo-goo mommy that wants to make certain that everybody is okay. I'm not that person. But I am blue enough to give you support. But the green in me shows up more in process. So I needed the red in me to give insight to management quickly, communicate more effectively. And as you move up in your career on a job to be more responsible, they're expecting you to meet more of the metrics and goals that that job has. I didn't have enough of that in the beginning, but I did know that I wanted to get promoted. So what I did was found someone that I knew was deep red. They were so far red on the red spectrum. This person seemed almost abusive when they walk into an environment. They show up, take over, and they lead a meeting or a session that's not even theirs, but you are clear what their color looks like. So I started watching this person to see what elements that they have that management approves, because they were not in a management position, but management was bowing down to what they typically said or did. And so I use that to co-create my future, to pull up some of my red elements, and it helped me get a promotion on my job. It also helped me move through some other pieces. So let me walk through what I was sharing about the conditions. And then after I share this slide, I'm going to pause the screen and have some conversations about this, because this is where I want you to gain some insight about what's happening with the conditions. We're just going to touch base on it today, and we're going to go deeper into this discussion tomorrow. So for the focus areas, when you have a focus of blue, when things are going well, your focus is on people. But when you're in conflict, you tend to accommodate. You tend to let others take possession when you're in conflict of the situation. And you can often lose yourself by being so accommodating that you lose your strength in your support system as a blue. Then for the color that's red, when things are going well, the focus is on performance. This is a person that operates in excellence on a regular basis. But when they enter into conflict, they can be assertive. And sometimes their assertive nature can be aggressive, and it takes their strength out of alignment. So people don't often see the assertive part of trying to make things whole and get better. All they see is the assertive, aggressive nature. Then for those that have a focus on green, when things are going well, you're process oriented. You create the plan. You help others know where there are procedures to walk through the situation that you're encountering. But when you're in conflict, you have a tendency to go deeper into analysis. And this is where you can find the term that people often say, analysis paralysis. They won't make a move. They can't go further. They are the ones that are trying to strive for perfection. If you're trying to constantly reach perfection, your strength is now being overdone, and it is not as effective as it can be. So let me tell you why that's happening, because there are different stages of conflict. And I'm going to go into this part a whole lot more tomorrow, but I'm going to touch on it today to give you some insight, because you need to know that you have a conflict sequence that you walk through. And there are 3 stages associated with that. In stage 1, you are focused on yourself, the problem, and others. In stage 2, you've done what you can for everybody else. And now you're just going to try to solve the problem and make certain that you are okay. And if the conflict keeps going, if it takes too long to resolve, you will decide it's just about me. I need to make certain that I'm okay. If I can't figure out how to get anybody else whole or get the problem together, I've got to survive. This is where we find individuals sometimes to go into an explosive nature. And what I want to do is to help you recognize your conflict sequence so that you can eliminate conflict quickly. So let me stop sharing my screen, because I know there's comments, questions, or thoughts that we have about this information that I want us to have a deeper discussion so that tomorrow we can walk through more of the stages. So tell me, did any of those situations or the thought process about your strength give you some idea about what happens when things are going well and when you enter into conflict? You can unmute yourself or raise your hand. Katrina, yes.
I'm definitely a blue-red person, mainly blue. But when I get into conflict, the red in me definitely comes to the forefront. And I can get very aggressive when I know I'm being challenged, or if I'm being mainly challenged in a negative point of view. When I feel as though somebody is attacking me or trying to make me look bad, I get very defensive. And I do raise my voice. And I'm getting to a place where when I raise my voice, I recognize what's going on and then I simmer down. And then I just be quiet because I know if I say something else, it's not going to go well. So I just reel myself back in and just keep my mouth shut. So that's my coping mechanism.
And I'm glad that you share that, because that's one of the tools that will support you. What you did was use a different color. When you calm yourself down, that is a blue color. You can bring in, you can bring in the color essence of the blue in order for you to change the situation. And if you are entering in an environment with someone that has gone into conflict red, where they are being assertive, pulling up a blue tone interrupts the pattern. It forces individuals to pause, because when you start putting on the color blue, using it as a strength, you are then in a support system. And tomorrow, I'm going to go into deeper discussions about the conversation that you can have, because there are words that you can use that will give you a way of supporting individuals along the way to get out of that stage so that they are not aggressive. And you can recognize and let them know that you see their assertive nature. We understand what you're saying. That's when you start addressing, this is the goal that we're trying to get to, especially if you recognize that the person is in red conflict sequence. They are just trying to get the problem solved. And in their mind, if they don't stand up and take charge of making certain things go well, it will not get done. Or we don't want to have them feel that they have to carry that burden and do that information. So this is where the other colors can come in to eliminate conflict quickly. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. Is there anyone else that would like to share what they've seen and have a conversation so that we can talk about how to manage the conflict sequence?
I think I'm blue.
When you go into
conflict.
conflict? Oh. So
unless I know I'm right. If I know I'm right, I'm red, and I'll fight to the death almost.
I'm glad that you said that, because here's the
If I
thing.
know I'm right.
Here's the thing about the color sequence. Most people that walk into it can go into a couple of different areas, because when you're in conflict, it's the environment that pulls out certain colors. Now, there are some individuals like me. When I go into conflict, my stage 1 is always green. I don't go into any other color when I'm in stage 1. But when I get to stage 2 and stage 3, I flip-flop that red and that blue. And when I flip-flop those two colors, they look different. I show up different. I respond different. And we're going to go into that conversation a whole lot more, because today I want to seal in your soul the colors. I want you to think about individuals that you know, so we can have a conversation, so that when we have the discussion tomorrow, going into conflict sequence, I can give you more information on how to pull yourself out of it to eliminate conflict quickly. So thank you, Brenda, for sharing that, because being green, when you know you are right, when you're green, you've already done the analysis, you've already done the work, you are clear that these are the facts, they are accurate, and if you have a problem, and I know I'm clear, we can switch that. One of the things that I share, because this information is based off of a subset of a course that I teach, Navigating Life After Divorce. It's a 5-week session that I go deeper into this. And in that course, you get a personalized, unique assessment that lets you know your conflict sequence, more clarity about your colors, and it breaks the color patterns down in a numerical value so that you'll know what percentage of each color you bring to the table. I'll share mine, because I am primarily, let's say 42% green, and I have to go back and look at the numbers again, but I'm about 42% green. I'm about 38% red. I'm blue, and then the rest of it is red. So I show up more in my green, but over time, I have grown into that number because I've taken the assessment a couple of different times. And as you take it and you grow and you know more about yourself and you learn to use these tools as a way of supporting your growth, development, to change your trajectory. Because when I got married at 21, the 21-year-old Tanya did not have enough blue to help her keep things together. Because I married someone at that time that was red, blue, and I didn't know these colors then. But now, recasting the past, I have more information. I was aware that the person that I married was more blue. And when we went into a situation when things were going well, they were in a supportive environment, and I was fine with the support. I loved them. It was great being around that person because they like to give gifts, they like to share, they clean up, and we have two little people. And I'm not the mommy person, so he did most of the like little parenting pieces when the boys were younger. He was great at changing diapers because I was not the little girl that people trusted with their kids because my green has been here for a long time. So I was a little girl that walked around, read books. I had a lot of friends of mine that would tell me, if you keep walking and reading, and Peggy, you probably remember me walking and reading books. Peggy's been around me for a while. She knew me back in the day in high school as the nerd. I am an electrical engineer for a reason. I see the world in a logical, analytical element. And so I can walk through an environment, have these big dreams, big visions, big goals, come up with plans and processes, put things together, take things apart. But what I don't do a lot is sit down and do what I consider woo-woo moments, babysitting moments. That was not my strength. I had to grow into that. So I married a person that was red, blue, that was more blue than anything. And he was looking for me to give more comfort, to give more support. But that was not my strength. And I didn't know. One of the things that he admired about me was the fact that I am process oriented. I am structured and organized. So if he had something, he would say, like, hey, can we go and take a trip? I would love to go and do X, Y, and Z, or I want to buy Umpty Squat, make up something. I would start putting a plan in place for us to go to X, Y, and Z and buy Umpty Squat. And he knew it would come to pass. He was clear that my strength would show up and provide what was needed. So he didn't have to worry about that. But what he needed from me in our marriage was more support. He needed me to be more blue, but I didn't understand it. So he kept going into his conflict sequence stage of blue to accommodate. So he accommodated my green need to go into just do my own thing. And he tried to bring me into the environment with him, but I didn't recognize it. I didn't understand it. And as our children started getting older, he was like, you really need to engage with the boys a lot more. I didn't know how to engage with them. I was trying to figure out how to do other things because I've always had an entrepreneurial mindset. My grandmother raised me with the thought process that when you work your full-time job, to make sure that you are okay, always have a side hustle. So I was always working a side hustle because it was that side hustle that I had that gave us the extra money to do the various things when Blue was going well moment wants to have something, I was able to provide it. And I didn't mind doing that. But when I went into a divorce, my divorce devastated me because I didn't have the support that I once had. And it didn't dawn on me how much he truly did in the blue arena. So I had to grow my blue. That 38% has grown. I didn't get tested then, but I know it was much less than 38%. Because in my divorce state, my children needed to still get that supportive element that they were used to. So I had to learn to tell my children that I love them because I was not raised in an environment where I heard the words on a constant basis that I love you. Because my grandmother, she was raised in an environment where you showed love by doing. So she fed you, which was her way of showing her blue, because she was also red blue. So I already had a proclivity to individuals that were red blue, even though I didn't know it at the time. And the way she showed love was to feed you. If you walked on my block, everybody knew my grandmother. And if you needed a hot plate or a warm bed, that is who you went. Her blue showed up as Big Mama. So you saw her blue, but she didn't have the wonderful, like loving blue things that people say you should have. And when we go into marriage, If you watch too much TV or read too many books, they give you this misnomer about marriage being all hugs and kisses. Everybody says, I love you. Everybody says, let's do well. That is not reality. So when your strength shows up and it does not look like that, people often try to make you think something's wrong with you. There is nothing wrong with you. Your strength is needed. Your strength is valuable, but you need to recognize what it is and use it accordingly and know in the environment when to pull it up. I learned to be more blue. And now on my job, because I started mirroring, co-creating my future, using that red person to give me some insight, I have gone through 4 different promotions. Hey, and I show up on my job as a hub. I am the individual now that people come to when they need advice because they're clear of my green, because they've always seen my green strength. They know that if they come to me, I'm a project manager by trade, being an electrical engineer by discipline gives me that strength that is seen. So I have the technical know-how, but I also have the people collaborative parts that I have pulled up with my blue and the insight to help you get to your goal with my red. So when management now wants an individual to start a project that they are just trying to figure it out, the green in me has a vision and a foresight that can see how to put the plan in place. The red in me has a way of implementing the process so that we can move towards reaching that goal. And the blue in me can pull a team together so that whatever that situation is, I am the powerhouse. That is how I want you to use your strengths. That is what I want you to get out of today. This is my desire. And in my course, we go through maximizing this in a 5-week session. In that 5 weeks, you get more insight about this because I have your personalized assessment to walk you through. Most of my sessions, and I only do this twice a year because I still work full-time, y'all. But when I walk through doing this twice a year, I do it typically in a group session, but there are moments I do one-on-one strategy sessions to support individuals because I don't want someone to not have the need because I only do this April and October. So you're getting this free webinar to introduce you to what I do. But if you want to take this deeper, we can do that in the course. And I'll walk into that in a few moments, but I want to pause here because I've shared a lot. I wanted you to see how it applies, how I have used it, and why I love doing this so much, which is why I became a certified organizational coach with core strengths. This information comes from a corporation, and I have taught it in the corporate environment. But I knew when COVID was coming, because here's another thing that I was sharing with you about relationships. When you are building relationships, having a relationship with a being greater than yourself will give you foresight that you didn't know was happening. So before COVID ever showed up, the God in me said, I need you to turn what you do into a personal course. Now, I've been teaching this for years, and I did not want to have to come out of my work environment because it is easy when you do this for work. They are told to go to your course. They show up for the course. They know what they're getting. They're aware that management is going to have them. So I have a captive audience. And with core strengths, they have a more structured platform that we use in a corporate environment. And it is phenomenal. But in a personal setting, I have to help people connect the dots. So what I did was took the elements of what I'm certified to do, pour them into a separate course over the 5 weeks to give you the assessment that they provide so you have the insight because it is valuable, but personalize it to you so that you will know how to show up both personally and professionally. And when God had me create this online course last year, I did not understand the full impact of it, but I knew enough based off of my core strengths how to put it together. And when people showed up for that first session, I was blown away. And I was glad that I was obedient to hearing and providing. So with that, I'm a pause because we are getting close to the 8 o'clock hour. My desire is to let this be an hour long, but I have it scheduled at 8:30. So if you guys still want to talk, you guys still want to have some discussions about what has been shared, we can still do that. So are there any comments, questions, or thoughts that you guys want to share from what I've already discussed today?
I just want to say your confidence level in the things that you just said about yourself, phenomenal. I am hoping to get to that point. I know sometimes that we are taught to be humble and not talk about our attributes and the things that we've done in life, our achievements, because it may seem like we are bragging on ourselves. But I think we need to become more of that person that I just saw in you. And I just aspire to be more confident in my ability to do the things in my life that I know I'm capable of. So thank you for that.
Kim, I thank you for sharing that. And that is part of why I share this. That confidence that you see, I had to grow my red to get there. Because here's something I want to share. In the Black community, because of all the stuff that has happened in this country on the hearts and souls of Black people, you have been put in a position to believe that in order for you to move forward in an environment, you cannot show your strengths. You must be humble, knowing that you may be the smartest person in the room, knowing that you may have the answer to give, but if you show it, you're often chastised. So we have generations upon generations that are seated in the midst of our soul that causes us to pause. So you're led to believe that being humble by hiding your brilliance makes you better. It doesn't. You can stand in the glory of who you are. The thing that you have is to be confident and not cocky. When you get to the cocky stage, that is overbearing and irritating. Nobody wants to be there. But being confident in what you do, that is your strength. You need to sit in it because someone needs it. We operate better in community. I have a friend of mine that's forever saying that, and I love hearing her when she shares that it's in community that we grow. It is in community that we develop. And now we have individuals that are beginning to see the importance of having more diversity because that diversity brings the insight of other strengths. You cannot fully achieve any goal that you desire if you do not have all 3 focus areas. And you don't have to have it in order for a task to get done, but you need to know to go get it. You need to know to have it in a room. So I thank you, Kim. You will gain your confidence in knowing your core strengths. Tell me what you think your colors are again.
So I think I know that I'm mainly blue. And so I've taken another assessment. It's called Four Lens, I believe, when I was in the military. That's similar to what we just did here with the colors. So I've always been blue and I've not liked it sometimes because I see it sometimes as being people pleasing. And though I love people, and that's why I am in the field of social work, I feel sometimes that though I know when and how to be assertive, that I'm sort of a people pleaser a lot of times too, and I don't want to. I want to learn how to not become such a people pleaser.
So that's what we're going to talk about tomorrow. When you enter into conflict, you remember seeing earlier on the screen, your focus is on people, but in conflict, you become accommodating. What I'm going to give you in discussion tomorrow is how to pull up those other colors while you're in stage 1. Because when you're in stage 1 conflict, you are able to hear and be more open to other things. Because when we enter into conflict, the only reason we go into conflict is because our self-worth has been challenged. If you feel that your core values are challenged, you don't want to hear what anybody else has to say. What you want to do is to try to get back to being whole and prove your point. For individuals that are focused on blue, when you go into that color, it seems more appealing to you to be supportive because it's your strength, to let others just be accommodating. So instead of sharing what you truly know, the way you do in conflict is to say, okay, how can I support you? If I can get you out of conflict and get us back to being whole, then maybe you can hear me. We're going to talk more about that tomorrow, and I can give you some insight so that from this day forth, Now that you have more knowledge, you can recast the past, co-create the future, and master your moment. Is there anyone else that has any comments, questions, or thoughts? You can unmute yourself.
I know, I don't like when I have an issue when someone beat around the bush with me. If you have something to say, just say it, because if you have to be direct with me, because if you beat around the bush and try to go a whole different route, I don't understand that, and it irritates me. I know I'm terrible. It irritates me, and I get like, what are you saying? Just say what you need to say, and let's move forward. You know, I'm not trying to figure out what you're trying to say. Just say it. That's what I understand. That's what I get. But I understand too that that doesn't work too well in the professional environment.
It's because your red is showing up. You, my love, are red blue, but you're more red than blue. Your desire to get to the next level is what forces you to want to push people along. So this is what you do. Recognize your strength, because it is a strength. But when you get to the place where you want to rush people, you need to use some personal tools to interrupt your own pattern so that others can feel welcomed in your environment, so they can fully utilize your strength. So when you walk into a place knowing that your red shows up more, like my green showed up too much for my red, blue X, I had to learn a couple of things. One of the tools that I used to help me, and it was after divorce, y'all, because I did an autopsy on my divorce and recognized my behavior. Because when you go through that situation and you separate, relationships fall apart because both individuals gave up on it. Some people try to be the one person to hold a load in the relationship, but you can't run a relationship on your own. You will reach a space if the other person does not engage where you will just have to let it go. I let go. I could have stayed in that marriage. I could have made a decision to be there for my children, but I'm also fully aware that if you stay in an environment that does not pour into you, you will eventually become toxic. I did not want my children to be in a toxic environment. They had already walked into a realm that was weird. For my oldest son, because at that time, not knowing so much how my conflict sequence was, I go green. And because I've gone green, and like Miss Brenda, I've assessed the situation. I know the facts. This is accurate. And so I've done stage 1. He still didn't seem to get it. My stage 2 was red. It was fiery, and I would scream and I would yell, and it was horrible. But that only came after he went into his conflict sequence of giving me months of silence. My ex would give me the silent treatment, and that burned me to the core. I didn't know how to fully deal with it because the green in me couldn't get data. I didn't know how to work through my own triggers and my own issues because I was never taught. We're not taught how to deal with conflict. No one has these conversations. It is okay to have opposition, but it is not okay to get to a place where your opposition for someone else's differences puts you in a place where you are now detrimental and toxic. We've got to learn how to get past that point, which is why I share the conflict sequence. And if you can navigate that at stage 1, you still have enough energy and focus to be flexible enough to pull up some other things. So what I learned from a book that I read called Love and Respect, and another book I read called The 5 Love Languages. The 5 Love Languages was a better tool that initially helped me see the blue, because my ex, his primary love language was touch. His secondary love language was gifts. Now, I was feeding the secondary one because when he asked for something, the green in me went to work. But he needed more of the blue part for touch. And I wasn't aware of it because I'm busy planning, I'm busy processing. There's other things we need to do. I was working most of the time in that marriage, 2 jobs. That wasn't helpful. But you do what you got to do. But if you don't know the tools or have the words to communicate effectively, That's the key component. So I had to learn some things. And when I learned to do that, when my red showed up in its fiery state, I had to learn to pause because he needed more support. And so in our divorce state, he still operated the same. But now I had some tools because in my divorce, I had more insight to know that when he goes into his first stage, he's going to shut me out because he goes into his blue silence. We fought in silence. Our marriage was that marriage where people say, you guys never fought. We didn't really fight much. We didn't have many arguments. There was no excess drama. But the undertones that resonate fuels a life of its own. And if you don't know how to recognize it, it creates micro abrasions that are triggers that will put you in a place where your conflict sequence walks you into other directions. And so I had to learn to deal with those micro abrasions and get some tools. And that is what I want to share with you more tomorrow. Because Miss Katrina, you can get through having some ways of maximizing yourself so that you don't walk any further. And others can see the assertive part because you need to go into your assert stage when you're in conflict to help minimize it. But you got to know how much of that is needed. Okay? So, are there any other comments, questions, or thoughts?
I don't know where to raise my hand at.
It's okay. Speak, Ms. Brenda.
I haven't found that spot on this thing. I still can't find it.
What I shared earlier, and I didn't know if you were able to see the tutorial, at the bottom of your screen, are you on a computer or on your phone?
Laptop.
Okay, on your laptop, at the bottom of your screen, Zoom has all these little icons. For
Yeah.
some, depending on the version, you may have to click a button that says reactions. When you click the reactions button, there's a raise hand feature in there if you have the latest version of, okay.
I see it now.
Okay.
I see it now.
All right.
Yep.
And so, what was your question? Because now you've got your hand raised. We're already talking.
Well, it wasn't really going to be a question. It was actually going to be a statement.
Okay.
I wanted to say, you know, I think I found this on something on Facebook, I think.
Okay.
But just in an hour, I have a better sense of something than seeing a counselor for 3 months. That's all I wanted to say. That was, yeah.
Thank you for that. That is one of the reasons why I teach this. And I do the course because this is just a small part of the 5-week session. I can take you deeper, give you more information to help explore where you are. But I'm so glad that you share that. And I'm thankful because I still want, wherever I go, because it's the blue in me, to give you support, to give you some help, to get you through to your next level. Are there any other comments, questions, or thoughts? Katrina, I see your hand raised.
I can, for me, I can see that I am assertive and I can show up assertive, you know.
Linda, I'm half hearing you. I
However,
apologize.
if, you know, having
We're having a little bit of issues with your connection, Linda.
Can you hear?
I can hear you now. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Linda, do this. Turn your camera
Okay.
off to save some bandwidth because I think you're having some bandwidth issues.
I know within me I'm assertive.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, I can hear you better.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. You're going to have to keep your camera
I
off.
can, okay. I can see. Oh man. I know I show up assertive. You know, I can be assertive, and you know, I can be that way. But in having experienced the relation for so many years, my husband has since passed away, where he was very, I guess he was the red, and I would shut into that whole and come back out, and little by little I got eroded. My selfness got eroded, you know. Although he would take the strength that I had to be able to talk to other people, you know, you go talk to them, you do this, the other. But then when it came to him talking to me, he would want to come against me, like, very strongly and very, at point yelling even, So I'm happy to understand and work through regaining my assertiveness and then utilize that in other areas, because right now I think that's where I shrink back many times, that I feel like I don't know how to process X thing, whether it's job, whether it's
Linda, you're breaking
in the
up again.
future of relations and so forth.
Okay. Well, I think I got most of it. Linda, you're breaking up again, but I want to say yes. Now that you have more insight about the core strengths, you can use these various strengths and pull up the ones that you need. That will help you moving forward in the future. Oh, wait a minute. Okay. Linda, I lost track of you. So the bandwidth got a little bit out there, but I'm glad that you're learning to use your strengths. And so when we come back tomorrow, we're going to have a deeper conversation about how to walk through conflict with this so that you know what to do next. And hopefully from there, this will give you some insight that you can share with others. Start walking through the world with a different lens and feeling more empowered to get to your breakthrough. Katrina, you have your hand raised. Would you like to share?
Yes, I wanted to share about last night when Tanya had a room on Clubhouse about conflict, and I was talking about the conflict that I had on my job. And she said something to me that I didn't realize that I was going through. And she said to me that the little girl in me is basically fighting for her identity, because when I was growing up, I grew up in a dysfunctional home where I was always yelled at and called names. And I knew, I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that that was affecting me as an adult. And that's something that I have to work on. But I'm just so grateful that she recognized that and brought it to my attention, and this is helping me to work through that. So I just wanted to share that.
Katrina, I thank you for sharing that. And yes, part of what happens when you walk through gaining insight using core strengths, it can give you a glimpse and you can see some things. And one of the things that I'm aware, having walked through trauma and chaos myself, I've learned a lot of things because it's the green in me that wants to try to gain more insight, to strive to be better, because then the red in me wants to do more with being excellent. And we don't often pay enough attention to the trauma that we receive as children in our environment. A lot of people are walking around as 2-year-olds in full-grown bodies because that was the place where they felt like they were captured and couldn't express themselves, couldn't give themselves fully. Some people may have had an impact. Like I know for sure my children are going to have some great conversations for their therapists. When I got divorced, they were sort of 3.5 and 9. Sometimes I round the numbers up to 4 and 10 because they were in an in-between state. My oldest one is now 28 years old, and he is just beginning to deal with the chaos that he walked through in our marriage because he remembered being in a family unit For him, he was one of the few children that still had both parents in the household. And when he was going on 10 years old, it was weird because his father decided to totally exit the picture. And so he had to still figure out, well, what do I do? And his little mind, because I was sharing with him that we have to step up now and do more things, because I was in no way capable of doing all the different things that my ex did. He was phenomenal with giving them support that they needed, but I needed them to do some things as well. And I've always had my children in a place where they knew, if you see something that needs to be done, do it. And I was always a disciplinarian. So in the divorce state, when my children realized we're going to be stuck with her, it did something to his little soul. And he has been trying desperately to recapture some pieces of what he felt was more of a cohesive unit. He is a red-green individual with a lot of blue tendencies. His natural proclivity is to be red-green, but because there was a blue element missing, he tries to walk into that space. It's not that normal for him, but he does have a heart to serve. He does want to support, because as I was growing better, when you learn better, you do better. So for those individuals that may have grown children that went through your chaos, if you're divorced, and you want to make certain that they don't have their 10-year-old selves or 8-year-old selves or 16-year-old selves, for that matter, walking around being explosive, trying to live this thing called life in brokenness. This is something that you can use now to start a new conversation. One of the things that I have done, and I still date my children. When I got divorced, I decided to start dating them because the oldest one being 10, I wanted him to learn a few things because I didn't want him to repeat some elements of his father's past that I recognized. So I had to show him what it meant to be around supporting a woman. Because as a man, I let him know God created you to be a protector and a provider. But what does that look like? And so you, my love, are a prince in training. And since you are in training, here are some of the things that you would need to do when you have a family of your own. So I dated them and I showed them and they got some insights. But because I don't have all of it, because God intended for two people to raise the children. And I recognize that with me being blue-green and with my ex being red-blue, my children would have gotten a more complete picture. And they couldn't get that until I grew into some things. So we have been having conversations in our date times over the years to grow more, to be more. They're with their father now. So that relationship with them has been enhanced and modified. I'm hoping so. I don't get involved with that because they're grown men and you've got to parent different when you have adult children. And so what I do now is have the conversation still because I recognize more of it. And being in a position where I recognize the conflict when we're having conversations, I can now pinpoint some of where they were and see, okay, you were 22 when that happened and you still haven't got through it. Now you're old enough because the green in him is still looking for information. I cannot and I don't encourage anybody going through divorce with children to use your children as sounding boards for your divorce trauma. They are not to be exposed to all of the stuff between you and your ex because the relationship that you have with your ex may not be the relationship that they have. And you don't want to muddy those waters. If your ex's behavior that you are experiencing is revealed to them, then that's a different situation. Because for my children, their father was God. He was everything because he was the one that was more playful. And they got stuck with me, Miss Disciplinarian. And so with that, I've had to walk through giving them some insight. Afira, I see you raised your hand. Please share.
Hi. So I just want to ask you a question based on what you just said about the kids. So I'm in the middle of a divorce and it'll go on for like another year. And I have two teens and they hate me. And I have very minimal custody and they resent having to spend any time with me. They ignore me. They just don't have anything to do with me because I'm the one who left. So I turned their worlds upside down. So my question to you is, how much can I share with them about how their behavior affects me? because like on Sunday, I have my oldest for 2 hours and he ignored me the whole time. And I said to him, you know, you're hurt. Like if you're trying to hurt me, you are succeeding. And this is like really painful and having you like ignore me. And, you know, I don't, you know, if this is what you're trying to accomplish, you're succeeding. And I don't know how that makes you feel, or I don't know if that makes you feel better, but this is like, you know, it's awful, you know? So I don't know what's appropriate. I don't know how to set a boundary when I'm also trying to like, there's a power struggle and there's, you know, I want them to have some sort of a positive experience, but, you know, they're determined not to. And I don't know how to also say, hey, your behavior is affecting me. It's hurtful when you ignore me, or when you say, hey, you know, I offered my son a ride today after his soccer practice, and he's just like, just go back to your apartment. So, yeah.
How old is your son?
The oldest is 15.
And how old was he when you got divorced? Well, you're still in the middle of the process. So how long, you left when?
So I've been separated a year.
Okay. So
but I
walking
technically have been gone for 6 months.
Okay. So you're walking into a couple of different things. First, you're walking through normal teenage mess.
Right.
So his teenage emotional elements are compiled with the fact that his household has been disrupted. So he is still in conflict, but he doesn't know how to process what he's going through. One, to tell his mom. Two, you're not there. So he's not sure how much to share about the other things that's going on in his world. And now that you know the different colors, I want you to take a few moments and see if you can assess him, because my guess with him being a little hostile right now towards you, when the two of you are together with him in silence, does he say anything, or he just stays in silence the whole time?
No, he'll stay on his phone and either like watch anime or play some games or something on his phone. He just doesn't want to interact. Some days he will. Some days he'll do like silent tic-tac-toe on paper and pencil. And then this last Sunday, he ignored me for 2 hours. And then when I offered him a ride home, he accepted it, which was wonderful. Blew my mind. I just can't keep up.
So let's go back to a place so I can get a better idea of how he is when things are going well, so we can get his colors. Because if I can gauge his color a little bit more, I can give you an idea of his stage one. Because right now it sounds like he's toggling between a green stage one or a blue stage one, but I don't know what it looks like when things are going well. So when he was little, was he the child that always hugged and kissed and loved and wanted to have you with him?
Yes. When he was little,
he
was
blue.
Pretty close. He was definitely my cuddler.
Okay.
And protector, I think.
So what you have to do now is speak to his blue, because he has more blue. You leaving disrupted the support that he always felt he had from his mom, and he doesn't know what to do with it. He doesn't have the words. So you will have to probably feed some words to him. With my oldest son, he had some blue elements as well. And what I had to do was learn to feed some words. When you're with him while he's in silence, don't challenge him with the thought process, are you trying to hurt me? He's not trying to. He just doesn't know what to do with you. What you do now is to speak to him as if he is in everything is okay, to help him get back there. Give him some insight about things that you remember, because there are memories that you have that he doesn't when things were good. There are elements about who he is that you know as his mother that no one else knows. So give him that reminder. You say, you know, the thing that I love about you? You are such a supportive, loving individual. I remember when you were X, Y, and Z, and we did such and such and such and such. Give him a recap. You have to recast his past for him by filling in those small pieces to let him know, okay, my mother hasn't been gone that long. She has been here most of the time, and she has seen me. She does know me. When he is ready, and it may take some time, because when my oldest one, when he was 16, because his father came back into his life, his superhero showed up again. I was the villain now, because he could go to the person that he wanted to be with in the beginning. And in his mind, because my ex and I started doing the every other weekend thing. And the way he naturally is to have fun and do gifts, he did every other weekend. So for them, going over there on the weekend was so much fun, much better than being with old stuffy me. So when he had the opportunity, when my ex decided to do some of his other things, my son chose to be with his father, and his behavior on me was getting extremely hostile. He went from his blue stage of trying to be quiet to me to a red stage where he was being combative. And I am not the one to be combative with. I was raised in a household full of boys. And if you want to see a red show up, I have no problem going toe to toe. But I couldn't do that because I realized, first of all, that's my son. Second, he's in conflict. How do I walk him through that? So all I did when we still did our date nights, we still had our lunchtime, but I realized that I could not have my weekend with him, which was for him to stay Friday through Sunday. I couldn't do that. So what I started doing to support his blue, to help him gain more insight, to know that I still love you, I'm still here for you, is just to have maybe 2 or 3 hours. And then I would take him back to his father. But in that 2 or 3 hours, what I would do is take him to a place that I knew we had some fun. Take him to something that I knew that he liked, because my children, I think it's this generation, they love anime. And I was also the one that introduced him to video games. And I played video games. Well, not so much now because that's what I do now. But I was like, hey, did you play X, Y, and Z game? He was like, yeah. I said, did you get past level? He said, yeah. So now I'm speaking his language. Well, Ma, if you just did, well, I don't have you here to show me, and I got to take you back in a few moments. But if you got a few moments and you don't mind, if we can go to the house, you can take a few more hours with me and show me what that looks like. So that expanded my 2 hours to about 6 hours. But I spoke to him in his love language, and I shared with him things that we did, things that were fun, took him to places that we had some enjoyable times with, took him to places where I knew he would like to eat. And I let it be in public because I realized being in my home was uncomfortable to him because it brought up memories that hurt him. Being in your house reminds me we are separated, but going out wasn't so much a reminder that we were separated. It gave him a different space. Then when he was about 25 years old, so you may have to just wait on it because it takes boys a little bit of time. He started being like, Mom, you want to go do X, Y, and Z? And I was like, well, you find a place, give me the time, and then we can go. And that has been our relationship for the last several years. And it has been enjoyable. Does that help?
Thank you.
You're welcome. So we are coming almost to the end of this. Is there anyone that has one last comment, question, or thoughts before I start closing out? And then I will see you all tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you guys for being here. I am so glad that you are here because it lets me know that what I'm sharing is valuable. And I want to make certain that you get some worth out of it. I'm hoping that you do. Look forward to you coming back. Inside of the chat box, there's a link for people to register. You can go to the bottom of your screen if you're on, and this I think only works if you're on a computer. I don't know how it works on the phone. But there's 3 little buttons that's called an ellipsis at the bottom where you see the chat box. You can click that button and you can download the chat and save the file so that you can have that link. Share that link with other individuals or copy it now into your browser so that you can save it and send to people so that they can come in tomorrow, because we're going to have a conversation about conflict and how to quickly eliminate it. And then we're going to walk into part 3, keys to your breakthrough, some financial insight, because going through my divorce financially devastated me. And I don't want anyone else to walk through that again without giving them some input on how to get through that process. So I'm going to walk you through that tomorrow as well. Any one individual would like to share any final comments, questions, or thoughts before we start closing out?
I'm sorry, you said what time tomorrow night? Oh, I forgot to raise my hand.
It's
I'm new
okay,
at this.
Brenda. It's fine. This is a pop-in moment. 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the same time you showed up for today.
Okay,
Same
so
time, we're going to be here tomorrow. Hopefully you can make it.
I have actually what's called divorce care, but I'll skip it. And yeah.
Okay.
I have a comment to make.
Yes, ma'am.
When I was married, my I transitioned into healthcare. Well, not so much transition. Well, I received my nursing degree, and when that was in early 2000, I had been married since 1998, and I worked in ICU. It was very, very stressful. Oh my God, I can't even begin to tell you the stress level. And I would come home. Sometimes I know I would drive home in tears of what I had to endure at the workplace. So I would come home. I would ask my husband, I was like, just give me a hug. I just had a rough day and this, that, and the other. And he was like, well, I'm busy. I something, or I'm this and I'm that. And it went on for so long. And I was like, is something wrong with me? But he didn't realize that, you know, he was neglecting me, when I would just ask for some support. And it went on so long that I used to think that something was wrong with me, but I realized later that he wasn't recognizing my love language, and I remember the day that we got divorced, he asked me, walk me to my car, gave me a hug and a kiss and said, you were a good wife to me. I looked at him like, are you crazy? Then mind you, at that time, he had bought a house with another woman and they were cohabitating while we were married. I said, you a fool. Something wrong with you. But I just wanted to share that because it was just so interesting. But I had to overcome because I was like, what is wrong with me that I just can't even get a darn hug? After working 12, 14 hours, I ain't asked for nothing else. I was like a real low maintenance person. And something basic as a hug was trying for him. But during the divorce process, and he dated, had this other relationship, he realized that he was neglectful to me. It was too late though when he realized it, because down the line, I realized the same way he treated me, his wife treated him. I said, look at that. Yeah. So I just want to share that.
So thank you, because you are red blue. So your blue was showing up because you were red at work all day long. Sometimes we need to communicate what we need. And you have to, well, my grandmother would often tell me, and I think it's just her generation, because I've heard it from so many people from her generation, you have to teach people how to treat you. Because you were accepting it over and over again, it became acceptable for him to ignore your blue. Now, you didn't know about the colors back then, so we got more insight now. But you can still let people know if you are walking in a space. And I want to say this one last thing for those that are feeling that some piece of you is just not being fulfilled. You got to share that. Don't keep that in hiding. You cannot, what my grandmother would also say, a closed mouth does not get fed. You need to share what you have to have in order for you to be whole. There are moments, I'm a lot of green, but I need some blue hugs and kisses. Now, here's the thing that I've learned about myself. My husband now, he is red blue also. I got this color thing, I think. My grandmother was red blue. My ex was red blue. My current husband is red blue. But the difference with this is, in this marriage, I've learned to be more effective in communicating because my current husband is a mental conditioning coach. He already he's more red than blue, but he knows enough about his strengths to pull them up. And he is a natural exhorter. So when I share in my course, I give you the core strengths, but I also talk about some things on a personal, deeper level, because I believe that the creator of the universe poured into each of us a special gifting that we use. For him, his gift is exhortation. That is a support system. And he is an effective communicator. I needed someone to talk to me, to feed my green, but to know enough and have enough clarity and insight of me to know when I would need a hug, even when I don't know. There are moments my husband will look at me and be like, come here, babe. And he'll just hold me. I didn't know I needed a hug to be held at that moment, but his intuitive blue. And so when we are in sort of a collaborative dance emotionally is what I think I should say. Haven't figured out how best to convey that. But there are moments when his blue needs a engagement and my blue is tapping in because I've been green for so long. My blue goes seeking him out. And I'll be like, hey, babe. And he's like, hey. And then but we communicated that. So you have to help people share. And along the way, because my husband has enough green in him, he analyzes. He has told me on numerous occasions, I have to answer to God if anything happens to you. And if I do not know you, I cannot do that. So I take the time to know who you are so that I will know when and where I can support you. He takes the time. Not everybody does. You need to know enough so that you can convey that. So, Linda, you have your hand up. Let's hear your comment, and then I'm going to close us out for this evening. Thank you all for being here.
Let me close my. I'm in agreement with Brenda that having sat down here for an hour and a half, we walked through a lot more than having sat down with a therapist. Every time I sit with her, do you realize all of these things are you? It's you. It's you the one that have to deal with all of this. You didn't need to, you have to pick what, and I would be like, so the last appointment I made, I chose not to make any more appointments. And that was that.
You have to be your own advocate. And so with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for
this
being,
insight.
oh, you're still talking. Linda, I'm missing you because you went out again. But I want to thank you all for being here. I appreciate this time. I'm glad that this is helpful. And I'm glad that you all are aware that this is a safe space that you can share information in. And I do know that for some individuals that are still online that have not spoken, if you need to have a quick discussion with me because there's something personal that you did not want to share with us streaming live, you can contact me at tanyaehood.com. Let me go and share the last couple of pieces of this screen, and then we will close out. So we walked through the conflict sequence, and we'll go into that deeper tomorrow. But as I shared earlier, this is a subset of a course that I teach. It's 5 weeks called Navigating Life After Divorce. And you already know that you don't have to be divorced to join because the information that I'm sharing is universal. It is currently on sale if you go to my website for this discounted price. But because you are here on this webinar, I have a major discount that is available to pour into you. So if you are ready, I will share a link in the comment, and you can only get this price if you are on Zoom and use the link in the chat box. Outside of that, you have already received the bonus chapter from my book. If you haven't, reach out to me because that is a bonus. I want to make certain that you have. That chapter gives you some insights about me, but it also walks you through a couple of comments, questions, and thoughts that I needed to get me to a place of resetting. I wanted to bless you. And if you want to know more about the book, you can purchase the book on my website at tanyaehood.com. Click on the Get the Book tab, and you can get it electronically through Kindle or paperback. This also comes with a companion workbook that takes you deeper into the insights from the book. Because in my book, I give you insights from 3 different perspectives: having a better relationship with yourself so that you can have a better relationship with others. And the way that you make it to your best possible position is to have a better relationship with a being greater than yourself. And that workbook walks you deeper. If you're interested in getting the paperback, just for this group, as an added bonus, you can get the paperback at 25% off right now. I will share the link in the chat box because that's the only way that you'll be able to receive that. And so thank you for your comments, your questions, and your thoughts. Tomorrow, we will come back, finish our discussion on how to eliminate conflict. And I'll put the link in the chat box for this webinar offer only. And with that, I thank you all so much for joining me. I appreciate you taking the time. Let me pull up the links so that I can put them in here for you and welcome you to come back tomorrow for this interactive discussion. You guys are participating really well, and I thank you for it because I need you to do that in order for me to make sure I'm giving you what you need. Let me send this. All right. And if I missed any of the links that I said I was going to share in the webinar, just inbox me, because knowing you are here, you still get the opportunity to get those discounts. And Miss Brenda, see the chapter. I will go and check after this to make certain I send you the bonus chapter if you didn't receive it, because I have an autoresponder that sends things out. And sometimes there's a little glitch every now and then, but also depending on when you registered, it may be a delay to give it to you probably later this evening. So I'll check the scheduler, see what it's doing, and get you your free chapter. Thank you, everybody. We are over time. I want to respect your time. I appreciate you being here and look forward to seeing you tomorrow. This is Tanya E. Hood, walking in my purpose, and I want you